When you think of ancient Egypt, you probably picture the pyramids, right? Towering columns, golden statues. But hidden behind all that splendor was something way more fundamental to their entire civilization: the temple kitchen. And this wasn't just a place to cook. No. As we're about to see, it was the engine room of the entire cosmos.
So I want you to just forget everything you think a kitchen is for. For us, it's a place for nourishment, for community, for family. But in ancient Egypt, the temple kitchen had a cosmic job description. Its purpose was to maintain universal order, one sacred meal at a time.
And really, this one idea is the key to all of it. In ancient Egypt, food was theology made edible. You see, they didn't just have food and faith as separate things, they completely fused them together into a system that powered their entire world.
All right, so let's dive in. First up, we've got to understand what this kitchen was really for. This wasn't just, a room with some ovens. It was a sacred institution, and its job, every single day, was to feed the gods, to make sure the sun would rise, the Nile would flood, and the world would stay in balance.
The best way to think about it is like this profound cosmic contract, okay? So the gods, they provide order, but they need to be fed in return. The priests, they're the divine waiters, basically, tasked with this critical duty. And the kitchen? Well, that's the critical link in the chain, the factory floor where earthly food was turned into the very substance of cosmic stability.
So now, let's zoom out a bit to really appreciate just how massive this operation was. I mean, feeding the gods takes a lot of resources. You see, temples weren't these quiet, sleepy places for prayer. They were economic superpowers, some of the biggest landowners and employers in the entire kingdom.
I mean, just look at this. The sheer scope is staggering. A major temple basically ran a completely vertically integrated supply chain, like a massive modern corporation. It owned huge farms, herds of cattle, its own fisheries, even industrial-scale breweries and bakeries. The whole thing was a self-sufficient economic machine, and every single part of it was geared toward one thing: making food for the gods.
So you see these incredible numbers carved on temple walls. 1,000 loaves of bread, 1,000 jars of beer. Now, was that a literal, we baked 1,000 loaves today kind of thing? Probably not. It was more symbolic, a statement, a prayer for infinite abundance. But to even try to reach that ideal, that took a mind-boggling amount of real-world logistics and production.
And this whole system, it had a very specific flow, a journey, really. It all starts in the field, gets harvested from the temple's own lands. Then it goes to the storehouse, where scribes catalog everything. Then it hits the kitchen to be prepared with absolute ritual purity. From there to the altar, offered to the gods. Then it's consumed by the priests and finally redistributed out to the workers and the community. And look what's right in the middle of it all. The kitchen. It's literally the heart pumping the lifeblood through this entire system.
Now let's zoom in on the people at the center of all this, the priests. And you should know, these weren't like monks living in total isolation. They were specialists, working in shifts. And when they were on the clock, so to speak, their entire lives, and especially their diet, were governed by these incredibly strict rules of purity.
Yeah, to even get close to the gods, a priest had to become a totally pure vessel. We're talking constant bathing, always wearing clean linen, and, most importantly, eating only very specific sanctioned foods. Think about it. Their bodies had to be clean enough to handle food that had just been in the presence of a god. So what exactly were they eating? Well, it was a diet way, way richer than what the average person ate, built on the staples of bread and beer. But it also meant regular helpings of meat, a real luxury, and specific types of produce. Take lettuce, for example. To us, it's just salad. To them, it was a powerful symbol of men, the god of fertility. everything on the plate had a deeper meaning.
Okay, so this brings us right to the heart of it all. How does regular food become sacred food? Well, it all happened through a very precise, unvarying daily ritual. This is what transforms simple cooking into an act of cosmic maintenance.
All right, this next idea is absolutely crucial. It's called divine consumption. Here's how it worked. The Egyptians didn't believe the gods, physically ate the steak and bread. Instead, they kind of absorbed its spiritual essence, its life force. This left the physical food behind, totally intact, but now supercharged with this divine blessing, making it okay for the priests to then eat.
And that whole idea powered this very strict daily cycle. So priests would purify themselves, the food gets prepared according to all the rules, and the meal is presented to the god's statue. After the god eats, the spiritual essence, the physically blessed food, which they called the reversion of offerings, was handed back out. And this wasn't just for festivals. This happened every single day, like clockwork.
So imagine the pressure on the kitchen staff. Burning a loaf of bread, that wasn't just a culinary oops. In their world, it was a ritual failure. It could anger a god and throw the whole universe into chaos. The stakes could not have been higher.
And to avoid that kind of cosmic disaster, the kitchen had rules that honestly seemed pretty extreme to us. Pork was a big no-no. Workers had to wash constantly. I mean, they even had to be fully shaven because hair was considered impure, a contaminant. This place was basically the ancient world's version of a high-tech clean room. Okay, so for this last part, let's zoom back out one more time and look at the big picture. Because this whole system, the food, the ritual, the purity, it wasn't just about faith. It was an incredibly powerful tool for organizing society and holding on to power.
And here's the kicker. That reversion of offerings, it was not an equal opportunity buffet. Not at all. The way this blessed food was handed out perfectly mirrored the social pyramid. High priest, you're getting the prime cuts of meat and the good wine. A temple worker, here's your daily ration of bread and beer. Your meal literally told everyone who you were.
So, by controlling all this food, the temple elites had immense power. They could keep thousands of workers loyal, right? They could throw huge public festivals to prove the gods were happy with the state of things. And maybe most importantly, they could act as a safety net during a famine, stabilizing the whole of society. A well-stocked temple was proof the gods were pleased.
And all of this really brings us to a pretty powerful conclusion. While the pharaoh sat on the throne, you could argue it was the daily, essential, and often invisible work in the temple kitchen that truly sustained the gods. And by doing that, it sustained the entire Egyptian civilization. And that just leaves us with one final thought to chew on. The Egyptians built their entire cosmic system around bread, beer, and beef. It really makes you wonder, if someone from back then looked at our world today, what would our most valued food say about us, about our beliefs, our priorities? What's our cosmic order?